Hey folks, welcome back to Off-Road Stuff. I'm Mike, and the bad bearing for the AC compressor clutch. So I just need to back up real quick. I did some, excuse me, there's a mosquito or something. I did some research, and apparently on this application there's three possibilities for the air conditioning compressor, the AC compressor. Um, One of them is the least common, and guess which one I have? The least common. So trying to get the correct bearing that goes in here took a little research. My first run with Amazon, it was not right. It was close. It was I think it's 2 millimeters too wide to fit in the hole here. So I had to do a bunch of digging. I found another number. I got my good old micrometer, and I was having some problems getting the old bearing out, and I was a little mistaken here. I'm gonna bring this in closer and show you guys. So on the back right here, you can see these little dimple marks right here. Okay, the bearing actually comes out backwards, and I believe this one is kind of considered non-serviceable, meaning that you're not really supposed to be able to take the bearing out, put a new one in, and put it back on. They want to sell you a complete unit. But we're gonna see if we can make this work. I was able to press the bearing out over these little dimples here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press the new one in, and then once it gets seated up against, there's a little lip. You guys can see there's a little lip right here. Then I'll just take a punch and roll these little dimples back down, and that should be enough to hold this bearing in place. Okay folks, so I was able to get it set down in the rest of the way. You can see right here there's a little lip right there, and then on this side there's no lip. It's seated down all the way. So what I'm going to do is just take this punch. I'm going to go right here real close to the edge and just give it a nice little whack, and you're going to see there's a little, if I can get a little dimple right there. I'm going to do that a few times all the way around, and what it does is just kind of mushrooms the edge over just a little bit to keep the bearing from being able to come back out. You can also use this little trick to do nuts that maybe are backing off all the time, that you can't use a nylock maybe because of the heat. If you do this little pinging, what we call it, a little ping, it'll help keep that. It oblongs the nut, and it keeps it from being able to back out. It puts grip on the threads. Okay, now I have another punch that's not quite as pointy. It's a little more blunt. I'm just going to go back over and hit him one more time to kind of open him up just a little bit more. Alright folks, so let's get you up close so you can see where I went back and did these little peens and see how it kind of rolled over the edge just a little bit, and that's just enough to keep this bearing from being able to back out. Actually, the bearing wouldn't back out because there's a snap ring that holds it in place. If anything, the pulley would try to come out forward, but with the clutch plate on here, it really can't come off. All it's going to do is start rubbing, and you'll hear it when it's not engaged. You'll just hear it kind of making a rubbing kind of noise. So anyways, well, I'm going to see if we can put this thing on, and then don't forget we have to fix the broken bolt. Alright, so we got the bearing back in the pulley. So now we're going to see about getting the bearing back on. Any luck? I'm going to grab a hammer real quick. Going down nice and easy, and if you do decide to do it this way, be careful because it's sitting on the radiator and they're plastic. The last thing you need to do is be almost done with one project and then have to start another one. Time, because you want it to go down nice and even. If you get all crazy and whack that thing too hard, you can cock the bearing and cause some problems and or blow out your radiator. Okay, and that kind of feels about where it needs to be, and it's kind of hard to see where you guys are at, but I can see the lip here for the snap ring that holds the or keeps the bearing from being able to come out. So speaking of which, I'm going to go grab that part and see if we can get it back in. I hope the audio is not bad. It's a little breezy. I got a lot of trees around, leaves ruffling. So but that's what happens, you know, when you're working outside in your driveway. Not all of us have a shop or garage to work in. Alright, I think we got it this time. And then, don't forget, there's a little, like a little shim washer looking guy. Let's put that back in there. And then you got to line up, there's a key right here, you got to line that up in the keyway. This I can just kind of, maybe not, I thought I could walk it down by hand, but we're just going to give her a little tap evenly. So now we can put the nut on there. So I just ran it down, and you can feel when it stops by hand. I'll tighten it up in a second, but what I'm doing here is I just want to turn this, make sure that it's not rubbing. There is some kind of a spec for the gap on this between the top clutch plate and the pulley. I don't know what it is, but I'm just looking at it, and it looks about what it was before. But one thing I'm going to do real quick is I'm just going to go in, turn the key to the on position, and turn the AC button on, and what that'll do is that'll activate the magnet in the clutch here, and it should lock up and tell us if we're within our tolerances. If it's too far out, it won't grab and lock it up and make it turn. And obviously it's not too tight because it's not dragging right now. So I don't know if you guys heard that when the fan came on. There was like a little clicking noise, and you can see how it's going all by itself. So all as one unit. That's how it's supposed to be. So I think we're good. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to grip that again, and then. See if we can just snug this up. You don't have to go crazy. That's good, just like that. All right, so now that we got that part fixed, don't forget we have a broken bolt to deal with. So I'm hoping that it just had corrosion on the threads that were sticking out the backside, and when I was trying to back it out, it just kind of bound itself up. Yeah. All right, folks, I don't know if you can see this here, but I was able to drill a hole. I did a little center punch. I was able to drill a small hole. It's probably 1/8 inch or so through the bolt. So at this point, I think I'm just going to try to continue drilling upwards until a lot of times what'll happen is if you drill step by step, size bigger, you'll eat away with the material and it'll be like a little sleeve, and then you can usually just get it to come out at that point. So we're gonna cross our fingers and see what happens. And this really helps if you have some sharp drill bits. All right, well, I think we're close enough right there. I'm going to see if I can work out that piece of metal real quick. Okay, folks, so I had to bring out some more light. Like I said the other day, we got some fires. So with the haze from the smoke, as the sun's starting to go down a little bit, it gets darker a little sooner, or at least losing some light. And I was having a hard time seeing what I was doing in here. But, you know, just small steps. Like I said earlier, I center punched it. Started with a really small drill bit and just kept stepping up, stepping up, stepping up. And I finally drilled all the way through up to, I think it was just under 1/4 inch. And then there was just a little piece in there, and it took me a minute to get the remainder out. And from what I can see right here, the threads don't look too promising, but I'm going to run a tap through there real quick and just run a bolt in and out, see what it feels like. I might have to either tap it up to a bigger size, or I might just put a bolt and a nut on there and call it good. But you know, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. And yeah, so we're just plunking along at it, and a little at a time. I'm not in a hurry. Okay, folks, so real quick, just to clarify a couple things, I call it a 12mm bolt because that's the size of the head and the size of the wrench or socket that it would take to tighten or loosen it. But in theory, the shaft itself is a 8mm by 125 thread pitch. So I'm going to run this tap through here real quick. Let's see if we can save these. I think the mosquitoes are starting to come out. Well, folks, it feels kind of promising. Feels pretty snug going in. I'm going to run this tap basically all the way down for the most part. I'll back it out, and then I have another bolt that I think came out from over here. I'm going to just run it in there to see how it feels. And yeah, don't think I'm like a prima donna and everything. Got to have my air conditioning when I go wheeling. Really what I use it for is when we do night rides and stuff. Like I said before, I live on the coast here, and so we go down to the beach a lot. And once the sun sets, it tends to fog up the windows inside. So I just usually run it to for the defroster to help keep the window clear, so I don't have to worry about it fogging up on me. Well, she's got just a little wiggle in there, but I think she might work. So what I'm gonna do is I'm probably gonna just get this all back in there, minus this bolt. I don't think I have. I'll look. I might actually have one of these from another Toyota project. And if you're also wondering too, I think almost all Toyota bolts are 125 thread pitch. It doesn't matter the diameter. Everything else, the diameter and the thread pitch change, except for on Toyotas. So it just so happens that I might have some of these from a Toyota project. Just a little FYI, I know it's not a Toyota, but sometimes guys, use Toyota parts, axles, transfer cases, whatever. So you may end up with a couple 8mm by 125. Just remember that. All right, so now we're gonna just kind of finagle the compressor back down in there. Okay, something like that. Now remember, we had this kind of funny looking bolt here, just a bolt with this little bracket welded onto it, and I'm gonna have to slide that back in there, but you can kind of see these threads kind of gumped up here, and I know the nut only goes on to about the end right there, but I'm gonna take a wire brush or something, try to clean these up real quick before we put them in, so that hopefully in the future I don't run into the same problem. Okay folks, so my good old Toyota stash came through. I found a bolt. It was what I figured is just about the same size as the old one. Got the other bracket on there. Everything's just hand tight right now until I get all the bolts in and started. Then I'll go ahead and put the belt on it. Right now I kind of have to hold the bracket up a little bit, so the two bolts that hold the bracket to the block are just they're not even snug. I ran them in by hand and then backed them out about a half a turn, so that the bracket kind of has a little bit of wiggle room in it. Okay. Fish the belt back down in there. Oh, and a little correction. I was doing a little more research, and I just assumed, like most other vehicles, if it doesn't come with air conditioning from the factory, that it just has like a bypass idler type pulley that goes on there. But I believe that the power steering pump is also adjustable. So I think you can just get a smaller belt for a application that does not have air conditioning, and then you can just tighten it up that way. I could be wrong. If somebody knows that for sure, go ahead and leave that in the comment box below so that I can clarify that. But That's just what I found through my little bit of homework and research. All right, so I got it on there. Now I'm gonna tighten up these bolts on the block for the bracket. And I will put the link in the bottom from the if you want to buy it from Amazon, and then I'll also give the part number for the only parts store that I've been able to find that even has a listing for this bearing is AutoZone. Okay, I'm gonna grab a little pry bar so I can pull on this and get a little tension on the belt. All right. Okay, so I got the adjuster tight. Belt feels good, not overly tight. So I'm gonna have to finagle my way in there, tighten up both the bottom bolts, and then just give it a quick once over, and I'm gonna fire it up and see how it works. You know, folks, I just want to throw this in real quick. You know, I've had a few people ask me, because they know my day job, my bill paying job, and you know, I start pretty early. I leave my house around 5-ish in the morning. I got about a 45 or so minute drive to work, and then back at the end of the day. Sometimes it's longer on the way back because there's more traffic. And I pretty much kind of do the same thing. I turn wrenches, fix stuff, do some welding, whatnot. You know, and some people say, man, he goes, you know, after such a long day, how can you come home and still, you know, want to do this kind of stuff? And to be honest with you, sometimes it is a little tough. I come home, just sit down, and I'm just kind of like, do I really want to go out and do that, or I just want to sit here and do nothing? So what I've done lately, you know, I'll come home and I'll fix me a little snack, and I'll just turn my tablet on, kick on some YouTube, and you know, watch a little wheeling or maybe somebody else's little how-to video, and it kind of gives me a little inspiration to, you know, just get up, get outside, and get going. And I found usually once I get started on a project, then my motivation goes up, and you know, I just really just get into it. And next thing you know, I got to put lights up because it's getting dark, and you know, don't realize what time it is or whatever. So I don't know if maybe that helps you guys. You know, if all else fails, maybe throw on a little YouTube, watch somebody's channel, and maybe it'll give you a little motivation to get out and do a couple of your little projects that you've been wanting to do on your rig. So enough babbling. I'm going to crawl underneath and tighten up that other bolt. All right, well, so far so good. Everything looks like it's supposed to. Tighten up those bolts, tighten up those bolts, that one, those two belts back on. There's two little bracket bolts over there. I'm not going to worry about that right now. We're going to do a test run and just see if she works. So hold on. thanks for following along on this little journey. I'll call it a success. Hopefully you guys could, learn something, pick up a little tip, trick, something. Maybe it help you, got the same situation. Or just some kind of entertainment value, watching me out here tinker around on my little Geo Tracker. She ain't no ball of fire, but she usually gets it done. And what you can't do, then we go to the drawing board and figure out what we got to do to see what we can help out. Whether I put a locker in the rear, that made a huge difference. I got the dual Toyota transfer cases, and oh my God, if you guys watch my other little video where me and a couple of buddies, me and Darren and Glenn, went up to Garcia Ridge where I dinged in my rocker panel and my door. The gearing was just unreal. I did that run I think back in June. We're into August right now, and I made the run okay. It's not a difficult trail by any means, but there are a couple of harder lines on that run, and this time I picked the hardest lines, and I had to kind of reposition a few different times here and there, but it made it so much better, just having the extra gearing, the extra traction. Front's still open. I have IFS in the front. So, that being said, those are a couple of the things that I'm going to be working on here in the future. So, there again, you guys, thanks for tuning in. I'm Mike with Off-Road Stuff, and this was my AC bearing swap. You guys, thumbs up, like, subscribe, share with your friends. Leave me some comments, questions, whether it's tools, equipment, anything you've seen on my rig. And, I haven't figured out how I'm going to do it quite yet, but I want to do some kind of a little giveaway. I know I'm early on in my channel, but, I'd like to do something for you early subscribers that are, supporting me right now, even though it's, just some numbers. But, hey, I really appreciate it, and I'm having a good time with this. It's a lot of fun. I'm learning a lot. And there again, like I said, it kind of helps motivate me to do some of my upgrades and stuff I've been wanting to do. So thanks again, guys. Be safe, and I'll see you on the trail.